Ye asked, and ye shall receive. I return to the Mascot Horror Minds to talk about something I've actually known about for a while, but never knew was as interesting as it was until recently. As you can probably guess, I'm kind of a workaholic. Therefore, I consume a lot of videos, because otherwise, I have the attention span of a gnat. A lot of those videos are from the big guys who will kinda just, play everything. I'm talking Dawko, 8-Bit Ryan, those guys. Sometimes, a video of some weird horror game they played will run across my recommendations like a little goblin, and I'll watch it while I work and then probably forget about it later. This was the case for the game I'm going to be talking about today, Sparky Marky. Gonna be honest here, Sparky originally did not stand out to me at all as anything remarkable. I don't even think I finished the video it was in, I genuinely just got bored and clicked off. I then proceeded to forget completely about it until a week or so ago when I was in a call with my friend, Tim, discussing video ideas. Of course, Mascot Horror comes up and then Sparky Marky comes up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. Wasn't that just another one-off little mascot game that didn't go anywhere? I am immediately corrected. No, there's a lot more to it than that, and it doesn't stop at just the game. Sparky Marky, from what I've found, is one of the most non-subtle attempts at becoming the next big slop / content farm / whatever you want to call it games of 2023, and somehow we all just happened to miss it as it crashed and burned. I don't have much kindness to spare for this game. Unlike the Mascot Horror I covered before, where the games mostly suffered from a lack of game development experience and were otherwise made with genuine intentions, Sparky is very evidently deliberately crafted to take the least effort to make, yet yield the most return from kids left unattended in grocery store shopping carts. From rampant soft locks to obvious AI voices to attempts to force you to join their Discord server to beat the game, let's get right into this mess and take a look at Sparky Marky. Alright, before we get into the gameplay itself, let's go over a little bit of this game's backstory. Sparky Marky has 3 chapters, with all of them having been published as separate games on Steam, which seems to be the usual these days. What's nice though is that unlike other games following this formula, all of the episodes are free to play. Well, 2 out of 3 of them anyway, plus the Dead by Daylight clone, which isn't gonna be included in the video because it's been locked up since May of last year and I can't play it. The game series was developed by Clapperheads, with episode 1 coming out on April 14th, 2023 to debatable success. Episode 2 followed shortly after, releasing on June 15th that same year to a slightly more welcoming audience. Episode 3 is in limbo, unfortunately, and it's probably not coming out. Why that is will probably become apparent as this video progresses. Clapperheads seemingly had no social media presence before Sparky Marky, so episode 1 was their first impression on the mascot horror scene. Was it a good one? No it wasn't, and let me show you why. You start off episode 1 with the option to pick between a lot of languages. I can't speak to the quality of these translations since I don't speak any of these languages, but I will award 1 point for making an effort to be accessible. Episode 2 also has this feature. The next screen immediately tells you the #1 reason why this game got a fair few bad reviews. It requires you to join its Discord server to be able to beat the game. Or at least it used to. Due to said reviews, the Discord integration was removed, albeit pretty sloppily in my opinion, but we'll get to that. In the interest of not getting too distracted, I'm gonna put my rant about why you shouldn't tie your game's functionality to an app you don't have control over a little later in the script. With little fanfare, we're then plopped into the middle of a forest with only a flashlight to our name. Therefore, the only thing to do now is wander. Walking along, you'll see generators, broken vending machines, doors, but none of it is usable yet. Instead, what we can do is make our way all the way down the road here until we find a wall covered in decals of Sparky. And if we look at it from a certain angle, we get given both a Discord command and temporary blindness. While all the game's Discord commands are made non-essential now, this one was lore-related, and we'll just give you a picture of one of the game's monsters alongside a note telling employees never to use the term monster in official correspondence. Interesting plot point, let's see if it comes up later. Continuing forwards, we find the titular Sparky lying inactive on the floor, surrounded by vending machines. A cute gimmick with him is that his color is random. I got a green Sparky, but you can have blue, yellow, or pink, or perhaps even another color. I go ahead and just walk over or around him to press this button, turning on the power to the surrounding area and also to all of these vending machines, which proceed to all play different jingles at the same time. Yes, it is exactly as terrible as it sounds. Oh. You can escape the area through the right side, and now you have to head back down the road you came from. Cross a bridge and then take a right into the forest to reach a door with a green hand sign on it that you can open. Let me be clear, this game is not clear about where you have to go at all. I only knew what to do because I had a quote-unquote guy in the chair telling me.
It's been an honor, Spider-Man.
What are you doing here? There's a dance.
I'm looking at
Sparky Marky.
This thing gives you absolutely no direction or objective, and it isn't even clear about you needing to turn the power on in the first place, because stuff is already lit up at the start, so wouldn't you assume there was already power? Who knows? Anyway, we can go in here now and find a computer that we can turn on using a button on the wall. Weird way to do that, but okay. And on the computer screen is a code. You can type this code into the machine behind you to open it. This was the first instance of mandatory Discord integration. Originally, you had to open this door here and get the command !code to get the Discord bot to tell you the code for the machine. This text on the monitor wasn't there before, but now it's kinda there all the time. Kinda wish they'd tried to implement a new puzzle here because this way of changing it is just kinda boring. Inside the machine, there are a bunch of flare guns. These are a doozy all on their own and the first instance of real bad game design. Did you think Moosey's use of its gun gimmick was bad? You wanna know what the gimmick with these is? They're single use. One flare each and you can't refill them. When you use one up, you gotta go get a whole nother gun. And these are required to beat the game, meaning if you shoot them all off at the wrong time, well, tough luck, that's a soft block. This could be fixed easily by adding a cooldown for shooting or ammo refills or something, but this issue stuck around in the second episode too, so I guess we're just gonna have to be careful with using these. Those guns were all we needed in here, so now we're supposed to head out and back down the road until we reach this specific purple vending machine. Not any of the other identical purple machines, this one, because right next to this one, there's a cave, and inside that cave is a panel of glass that we need to shoot, again with the immersion breaking graffiti. There's also another code on the wall here. It's just more lore. Same with the one inside the room we find. Honestly, my main gripe with these codes is how obvious they are. I think it would have been way more interesting if you needed to piece them together yourself with puzzles in-game, like how games like Shipwrecked 64 use stuff like ciphers to hide codes in plain sight while still keeping you immersed in the universe. On the table here is a watch we can equip. It has two functions, a door hacking tool and an elevator activation tool. You gotta figure out for yourself that you're supposed to go to the road again and use the hacker tool to open this locked door, which lets you into here. In here, you need to shoot the window with your flare gun. What window? That window. What do you mean you didn't know that was a window? It definitely doesn't look like a wall. Oh, and I hope your gun still got ammo. If not, get your ass back to that other building for a new gun. But this is the last time we need the flares because now we're switching to tasers. If you want, anyway. This collection of tasers actually never has a purpose, and neither do the flares from this point onward. What's with Mascot horror and just forgetting to use its gimmick? Open the door here and Sparky appears for a split second before vanishing and making the lights flicker. We can leave after this, though, and head down a new short road before walls sprout up around us and a strange monster with a QR code for a head crawls out of the darkness. Don't scan that, it doesn't go anywhere. It used to go to the Discord server as far as I can tell, but now it just goes to a malware site because I'm assuming a Discord update broke whatever link the monster was using. Ooh, $1.99. Now we must navigate the maze successfully before the monster catches up to us. The way out is indicated by the Sparkies that have guns. Don't follow the ones with the Discord icon, it's just leading you to another lore command. And if sometimes you don't see a gun Sparky, take the path to your left. Be wary of another critical design flaw that can and will make this segment a million times more annoying. A run timer cooldown. If you accidentally stop running at any time during this segment, usually to look for the next correct Sparky to follow, you'll have to wait a little bit to be able to start running again. And this happening enough equals death. Thankfully, this is one of the few things they fixed in episode 2. Reaching the end of the maze brings you to another gun cabinet where you could grab the single taser inside and use it to shock the monster, freeing you from what I guess was the inside of the Sparky Marky costume. This is the only point in the game where you can even use the taser, which is weird considering they gave us a bunch of them earlier. And with that, that's it for episode 1. A whole lot of walking and one chase, plus a command as a reward that lets you into a new channel in the Discord server that's just as dead as the rest of them. I wonder if they noticed me checking all the commands. I wonder if they were worried. Anyway, that wasn't a very exciting game. We barely even saw the titular monster. He kind of got overshadowed by Mr. Social Media promotion over here, there really isn't much positive I have to say about this experience. It just feels shallow and it barely lasts 10 minutes if you know where to go and what you need and don't need. But is episode 1 enough to warrant a whole video? No, it isn't. Despite its flaws, it's only meant to be an introduction. I can excuse issues with a first go-around as long as things are patched up in later installments according to criticism. So, were they? No, they weren't. They actually got a whole lot worse. Episode 2 starts off with a language selection like Episode 1 does. This time, though, the title screen is a lot more graphically interesting, and unlike the first episode, we actually have a sort of introduction as we find out we are playing as Dr. Barlow and undergoing some sort of monthly assessment led by Susie, an AI. Dr. Barlow doesn't seem too happy about it, though. Wandering around a bit, she becomes confused on why no one's around. Eventually, we end up finding the watch from the first game, which has been updated a bit to now include a monster database. The first game didn't make it clear, so let me clarify some plot details here. From what I understand, Sparky Marky himself isn't the monster we're dealing with. He is instead a costume with a large space inside, and any monster can use him as a disguise. This list specifies the different monster types that can hide in him, one of them being the QR monster from the first episode, explaining why we saw ourselves exit Sparky when we beat it. Sparky's behavior betrays what monster is inside, sort of like how you'd use behaviors to determine the ghost type in Phasmophobia. This thing even has a bunch of other attributes like the color of its ooze that I guess Sparky would leak while walking around. It's an interesting idea for a monster, but it's sadly barely expanded on in-game as it progresses. Note how I am saying in-game. Keep that in your pocket for later. Speaking of progress, after I find the watch, we find an elevator that then triggers the training simulator to start. Barlow expresses her disappointment with some very human-sounding dialogue. This being a training simulator, though, allows the game to make up for the shortcomings of Episode 1's ability to explain its mechanics and actually does a half-decent job at telling you what you're gonna have to do throughout the game, like hacking doors and buying hacks for doors. Notice this in the first game? Your hacks are a limited resource. To unlock doors, you'll have to have one available, and you can buy them from these purple terminals spread throughout the facility using credits you'll find lying around. Finding the credits is at least something to do besides walk, so it's not the worst mechanic. Apparently, hacking vending machines can also earn credits. The game tells you this via a Discord command you can find later. Giving the hacking tool more functionality is a good thought, but you're never really hurting for money enough that you'd need to do this. Discord commands were never mandatory in this episode, letting the developers use them more as extra gameplay and lore hints like this one, which is really what they work best as. Good job there. When we buy our first hack, Susie alerts us to a perimeter breach in the 4B zone, but when asked for the location of an exit, she's silent, prompting the ire of Dr. Barlow, who I then spend too long driving in circles before I finally make it to a bathroom where I grab some toilet credits and get jumped by Sparky, where I jump and accidentally waste the taser I just picked up on instinct. That's fine, it goes unused if you don't. After the toilet, I spend another eternity going in circles until I find the main man himself. Sparky is enclosed in a cage, and although he tries, can't get to us. Susie informs us that a marker has been placed on us to attract him, and that we can tell if the marker currently is on us if we can't see him. He apparently accomplishes this invisibility with psychic abilities, which I will say is not something I've seen a Mascot enemy do before, or at least recently. To get rid of the marker, we need to use a new purple gun to transfer it to a mannequin. This is the only time we need to do this. Another bit of missed potential for a cool gameplay idea. What if there were times you realized Sparky was chasing you and you needed to find a mannequin nearby to avoid death? It would spice up chases that wouldn't otherwise be unique. Come on, guys! Sparky becomes visible after we transfer our marker and begins aimlessly walking in the mannequin's direction instead, so we're free to head on into a room where the objective is to fall into a pit and become horribly injured. Yes, really, this is to teach us how to use the new heal gun. These new mechanics are used so little in this episode that I'm honestly thinking they were meant for that Do You See Sparky multiplayer thing, and that this game was just meant to be a glorified tutorial for that. But that still doesn't mean they couldn't be used more here. This is like if Poppy Playtime had the grab pack but never made you use it until Project Playtime came out. Wait a minute, is this game series just trying to be Project Playtime? I'm literally just realizing this. Huh, that explains a lot. Well, anyway, it still works here if we happen to get hurt enough, so let's keep going to where we can find another Sparky in a cage that doesn't neutralize his psi abilities. This is meant to be a hint to how you can tell if he's close to you when you have the marker, and also a warning about letting him get too close, since if he does, you'll stumble and fall. Except, after we tase him inside the cage, he escapes, and we can hear his footsteps in the room. But, despite me taking ages to find my way out of here, I didn't encounter him once, and those footstep sounds never moved. I don't think he actually chases you here. Why not? There's no reason not to make him a threat here, especially with the spooky ambiance and the darkness. You already taught me how to get rid of him and how to know if he's close, so I genuinely don't understand why he just gets sidelined here if this is a bug that's happened to everyone who's played this, because I checked YouTube and it ain't just me. Exiting that area, we find yet more Sparkies, each exhibiting a different way of movement that allows you to figure out which monster is inside each of them. Look at him go! The next room also explains that broken vending machines indicate the monster's dietary preferences and can be used to further confirm its identity alongside the unique ooze it will excrete after eating human foods. We can pick up a chemical gun here that will analyze some practice ooze left over in a nearby hallway, but this is the only time we'll see this mechanic, and I feel like I'll be beating a dead horse if I say once again why it's annoying to see this gimmick go unused. Alright, a quick aside, this room here betrays something that I hadn't wanted to assume right away, but now have a pretty definite opinion on. This game is using AI voices for all of its dialogue. There are absolutely no voice actors listed in any credits anywhere, and a lot of the delivery feels very unnatural and stilted. How do I know for sure now, though? Well, this guy sounds the worst out of all of them.
Log entry 3502. Price is like a dog with a bone, wasting resources on his rune obsession.
In fact, he gives off the vibes of those weird content farm backrooms shorts I see sometimes. It's unfortunate when developers feel the need to turn to AI. It takes a lot of humanity out of a game. The other voice memos share the same stilted dialogue, and eventually I just stop picking them up, though it's more so out of boredom than anything. Beyond these AI voices lies a room with a big sonic anomaly in it. To pass through, apparently we need to use a sonic gun, but I found that just doing so normally yields pretty much the same results, so it's yet another random mechanic inconvenience that we can disregard, paired with another unneeded idea in the next room that's apparently a lamp that can reveal runes left behind by monsters. We are told to use this, but I never figured out how to and never needed to do so, so into the pile it goes with the others. At this point, the story and even the gameplay is starting to make little to no sense. Barlow starts waffling on about coming here to develop a cure for all diseases, which literally does not ever come up again, and the two scientists on the tape start fighting about sound and rune theories which have nothing to do with the game, since it's already stood its ground on never including any mechanics related to those things. We also find Sparky at the top of some stairs, but he does literally nothing when we approach and even trample all over him, so I don't know why he's even here. Then we finally make our way into the last room of the training simulator, which simulates emergency situations to test employee knowledge. Terminals are located around the room and we need to use them to get a key light, which can be placed at another central terminal to neutralize whatever monster is in Sparky when he's in the room with us. We can figure out what monster it is with our previous behavioral knowledge and request the right key light based on that information. Viewers are also stationed around the room to let us see Sparky while he's invisible at the cost of staying still. All of this would certainly come in handy if Sparky was even doing anything. Instead, there's nothing! We need to insert the right key light based on no present threat and no hints, which results in me just trying all of them until it works. And then the threat is released. So now, do we need to analyze the monster now that it's active? No, we don't. We just gotta get a flare gun, shoot these screens, and book it. Awesome, the one time Sparky is actually after me, and it's only a problem for like 10 seconds. Barlow babbles some stuff about coming home to her son, and then we finally use this app for the only time in the entire game to buy and activate the elevator, where we are again jumped by Sparky and put into another costume dimension thing, where this time we are being chased by a clapperhead. The same strategy as episode 1 applies here, just follow the Sparkies that have keys. They lead into this observatory room where I assume we've exited Sparky and now the monster is coming out of him after us. You are apparently not supposed to just sit here and watch it. Oops. What you are supposed to do is run back here, grab a flare, and shoot the window behind Sparky to jump out and escape, putting an end to episode 2 of Sparky Marky. Okay, so that was a lot. Definitely a better showing than the first episode was, but still not a good one. The game is riddled with issues, from weird game design to a constant state of there being no threats at all, to boring environments that you get lost in due to a lack of landmarks. Why are all of the guns still single-use and disposable? Why can't I spend all my credits on lock hacks so I can't use the elevator without restarting? It feels like nobody tested this. It's really disjointed and more like a showcase of ideas that could have been cool if they got used at all, which is sad considering they definitely won't be now that the multiplayer game is dead and closed. Why does that have anything to do with this? Well, I've got a bit of a theory. I think this game is trying to build its entire identity as a franchise around its multiplayer game and just uses its standalone entries to promote that game and introduce its individual mechanics. Why else would so many things get shoved in only to go completely unused? That would be more forgivable if they hadn't straight up removed access to the game almost an entire year ago, leaving these 2 other episodes to rot as unimpressive showcases. And do you know why I know they're going to rot? Before and while making this video, I did a lot of research on Sparky's developers and their history in the gaming scene, and I think I've got a decent idea of why this game failed to become the next big thing like the devs wanted. Please keep in mind that this is only my opinion and is not meant to disparage the developers in any way. From what I've discovered, Sparky was created for entirely the wrong reasons. Rather than making a game they were passionate about, Clapperheads tried to burst onto the scene with an eye-catcher mascot they didn't actually care about, one they were quite possibly only using because they thought he'd be their ticket to fame. And since most other mascot horror games release in small experiences at a time, they probably figured that for Sparky to succeed, he'd need some standalone experiences of his own to really set him up to take over. Problem is, that wasn't what they wanted to do. They may have thought that making games they actually wanted to make wouldn't have gotten them the audience they wanted right away, so they put out these small games without putting much effort into them, hoping it'd knock out that first phase of their career so they could get to the more exciting stuff. Notably the online multiplayer game, Do You See Sparky, which seems to have more passion behind it. I mean, the first 2 episodes are practically just advertisements for it. It's pretty clear where their priorities were. Spoiler alert, forcing yourself to make something that you couldn't care less about just results in that disdain leaking into the work and ruining it. And people noticed that, which led to Sparky's popularity quickly dying off and to Do You See Sparky and Chapter 3 likely being abandoned due to a lack of demand for the overall franchise. I want to spend this segment going into detail on the fragments of Sparky left behind, which all serve as evidence towards the lack of passion I feel went into the franchise. 1. Let's start with the monsters. All of them, even Sparky himself, were created by the artist Leo Vincible. And by themselves, they're great actually, but they don't do anything besides dance around for promotional footage. Their real moments coming again in the online game where you do actually have to identify and counter them. 2. Quickly going back to gameplay, there was clearly a lack of polish or testing done. Soft lock this, soft lock here, soft lock that. Surely if anyone who wasn't a dev had run through this before release, somebody would have found these, right? It stinks of a rushed product. After all, there were only 2 months between the releases of episode 1 and 2. That's about the same amount of time Garten of Banban's first 3 games each spent in development. So yeah. 3. If you look at Clapperhead's YouTube channel, you'll find a plethora of shorts where Sparky will spout off a weird grating AI voice.
Guess what's inside me?
And then reveal one of these 16 monsters from the series doing some basic haha spooky movements. They're pretty cookie cutter, using the same template for each's animation and reusing the monster jump scares from the online game. These shorts are the only place you can see the monsters' models now, as apart for 2, they never appear in the games. Another thing we can find in the shorts are promotions for Do You See Sparky. Why are these important? Well, notice anything familiar about this gameplay? Yeah, turns out that episode 2 is literally just the tutorial from DYSS being reused with minor changes, and this is backed up by reviews and community members that actually got to play it. That explains why all the mechanics felt meaningless and why there were so many. Outside of the shorts, checking the main channel reveals that it's been dead for 8 months, coinciding with the release of the last playtest for Do You See Sparky. I'm guessing that due to low attendance, the devs realized that it was a lost cause and stopped trying. But despite now making another game, they won't admit that Sparky is dead, so they stopped posting altogether to avoid backlash from all 10 of his fans. Lastly, their fabled Discord server. I said it was dead before, but I believe I understated how dead. The devs have left this server to rot. They are only obligated to keep it up because of the Discord integration. I think they'd rather get rid of it. But hey, you made your bed, now you gotta lie in it. This is why we don't tie our games to outside services, not even if doing so will get you a community. I think that's what they wanted anyway, to try and game the system by requiring people to join so that they could get a big Discord server and maybe a few big members too. That is unfortunately a very artificial way to gain a fan base though. Nobody is there for Sparky. Everyone is just there to use the commands. Some don't even bother with the rules, so the place is now a glorified wasteland of users fighting with Susie because they can't read what channel commands are supposed to go in. And there's no moderation either. It's not even a suitable place to talk anymore if by chance you genuinely like the game, nor is it completely safe either. During my stay, one account was compromised and started spamming e-girl Discord invites with cropped naughty pictures in the icons. I kept checking back and these stayed put for an entire day before the mods finally got rid of them. Nobody even bothered to ping said mods either. What would have happened if kids, the ideal audience for Sparky, joined and fell for that? It is irresponsible. So, is all hope for Clapperheads truly lost? Well, absolutely not. It looks like they didn't have the best first outing, but you know how I said the studio was still active earlier? Have you by any chance seen this video before? It's of the upcoming horror game Zoocosis, a vastly more popular game than Sparky despite it not being out yet. But did you know they've got the same parents? Clapperhead seems to have learned from their mistakes and started making what they're better at, or at least what they actually enjoy. Therefore, the quality of their creations has shot way up and they're seeing the results of that. We can only hope that Zoocosis matches its trailers in quality. Please don't make me make this video down the line, guys. I want to believe in you. But with that being said, that's all the input I've got on this. Sparky bad, Giraffe good, we shall bide our time and wait. I usually give you something to talk about in the comments. Let's see. If you don't want to talk about Sparky, tell me about your cat. My cats are named Coco and Francis. One's a pissy shelter runt and the other was in a gutter near a church. They both have severe RBF. Anyway, you know who it's been. This has been Glamrock Dusky, and remember, have a fasserific day!